Morning. Good to see you all.
I know.
Here we are back in Leeds, our 5th podcast. How privileged are you? Number 5.
It'd be better to be number 1, but we'll take.
Wow, you'll take number 5. You'll take number 5. So, for the benefit of our members, we're here today. We're going to talk about HAE Risk Services and Stallard Kane, who sits behind HAE Risk Services and supports it. So let's have a bit of an introduction. I'm Neil Bravery. I'm the Commercial Director for the HAE Association Europe.
I'm Katie. I'm the Development Director for Stallard Kane.
I'm Claudia. I am Senior HR Advisor at Stallard Kane.
I'm Matt Ellis. I'm Head of Health and Safety at Stallard Kane.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks for coming in to talk to us today. So we're going to talk today about HR and health and safety. And I've got to try and make it sound interesting. Well, actually, you guys have got to make it sound interesting. It's not up to me. I've just got the questions to fire at you. So I think it's important that people understand, this is HAE Risk Services. Stallard Kane is the company that supports it for our members. So we'll start just by talking about each of you first and what your specialism is and what you bring to it. So Katie, you're up first.
Yeah. Well, I'll take the word specialism, but my role within Stallard Kane is very much just making sure that we are well placed in the market to serve our clients and support them. That means keeping on advancements of technology, making sure that we have the best people out there on the ground and making sure we continuously push the advancements of our knowledge out there in the industry, both health and safety and HR, and also risk solutions management in there as well.
Okay.
So it's my job to make sure we stay ahead of the curve and make sure we continuously push out to our clients all those benefits that will make a difference to them.
Okay, and how long have you been with Stallard Kane?
I've been with Stallard Kane a short amount of time, but a very enjoying 16 months so far.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Claudia, we've met before, haven't we?
We have.
In a previous life.
Many years ago. Well, I've been at Stallard Kane 7 years this year.
Wow.
I think we've probably worked together since I joined Stallard.
I think we have, yes.
7 years at Stallard Kane, coming up around about a decade working in HR specifically.
Okay.
So my role within Stallard Kane is I oversee the HR team and the HR service that we deliver. So that's both to HAE members, but also to our wider client base as well. So you've got a team of 8 HR advisors now.
Okay.
So I oversee that team service there.
Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, so about 12 years at Stallard Kane myself, coming up to 12 years.
Okay. You're the veteran then?
The veteran, yeah. So
not quite in the Stallard Kane books.
No, that's quite a young that certificate. So my role now is managing and overseeing the health and safety procurement. I started as a health and safety advisor, working with HAE quite frequently, to be honest, in my early days with Stallard Kane. Similar to what Claudia mentioned with overseeing the HR department, I'm monitoring, overseeing the health and safety delivery, making sure we keep up to date with legislation, making sure we're working with partners such as yourselves and making sure that the advisors are upskilled and working on their development to stay up to date with the industry.
Yeah. I suppose for our members, health and safety, obviously HR is also important, but health and safety in an industry with tool and plant hire.
Without a doubt.
I mean, there's a lot of risk there, isn't there? Let's be honest.
Yeah. It's really, really important to understand what the risks are. Obviously, every industry has its own inherent risks and hire is no different. So, key to understand the risks posed by the businesses, posed by the industry, and what that looks like for the employees. The business owners have also got a real responsibility to make sure they're aware of what risks are there and how they control them.
HAE Risk Services is supported by Stallard Kane. That's what sits behind it. But for most of our members, they may not have heard of Stallard Kane. They would have heard of HAE Risk Services, which used to be called HAE Business Guard. We've just rebranded it. But just to explain to our members who Stallard Kane are, where are they based, how long have they been going, is it a new business, is it quite an established business? Just give them a bit of a feel for what Stallard Kane's about. Yeah,
of course. So Stallard Kane we're in their 25th year this year. They originated from a small family-run business, really kept that feel. I think what was important about that is that feel really has and still stands today in the fact that we like to get in and understand what businesses stand for, what they need support on, and how we take them on that journey to not just ticking the box of health and safety and HR, but truly embedding the culture within their business and what it means to stay safe and embed and reduce those liabilities where possible. So Stallard Kane, really, that is what we stand for.
Yeah. And I suppose when we talk about HAE Risk Services, that does sound quite scary, doesn't it? It sounds like the wheels are literally falling off everywhere when you talk about risk and how you can support our members. But I think, as we continue our conversation this morning, we are going to talk about the HR element. We are going to talk about the health and safety element. Do you only work with hire companies?
We do, yeah. We work with multiple hire companies. Some HAE examples. We have Down Hire, we have First Call Hire, Skipton Hire.
Yep.
Some of these companies we have worked with for well over a decade. These companies are working at gold standard, so they take safety really seriously. They work with us to, continue that evolvement and ensure that they stay ahead from a technology point of view, but also from an awareness within their business and making sure that all their staff don't just think safety is, on a board, let's tick that off, but actually it embeds as a culture in their business. And I think it's really important. And as today's conversations go on, one of the reasons we work with the HAE is because the passion that you have for the hire industry and what you focus on, it took us 3 years to become partners with yourselves. You had us pushing and trying to, show you what we could do for your members. It wasn't just we presented to you. It was over a 3-year period. And it started in 2009. In 2012, you said, you know what? I think you really could make a benefit to our members. And for us, that's what matters, because we really had a shared investment on what would bring a benefit to members. And that for us is something that we have continued to do over the years in partnership and understanding in where the benefit sits, really.
And I think that really is important, because look, there are plenty of companies out there that do HR and health and safety. I don't need to name them. There is a lot out there. But for our members, we want to make sure when a member puts a call in, whether it's health and safety, whether it's HR or any kind of risk, that when that phone's picked up, you guys understand their business. Because there's HR and health and safety in every business, but we want to make sure that you understand the hire business.
Absolutely.
And understand the difficulties in the areas of concern, which will be very similar across multiple companies across the UK. So that was a bit for us. So you're right, there was quite a long process and understanding, are you the right fit for us to be in partnership to support our members? Well, the clear answer to that is yes. And the numbers speak for the amount of members that use the HAE Risk Services already. Killer question. Who wants to answer a killer question?
Say it first.
Go on then, right, okay. Why would a member want to use HAE Risk Services instead of going to another HR or health and safety advisor?
Do you know what? I'm going to take part of this and you guys can jump in if you want to add anything to it. But I think for me is that HAE Risk Services, working with Stallard Kane, we are not just ticking a compliance box. Okay, if you want that, you can go to anybody out there in the market.
There's names in my head, but I can't say.
You truly can, and I'm not going to name drop any of those either. If you want somebody that we've mentioned it, picks up the phone and knows your business when we pick up that, have a dedicated consultant, embeds themselves within your organisation, and really wants to ensure that your staff are taken care of, that you understand the risks that are out there for you, working in what can be a dangerous industry. There's a lot of things out there, from the high risk equipment, etc., that a safe system of work, you only know what you know. So we as experts will come in and understand what that means to you for your business and help you in those areas. So yes, you can go to anybody. Why would you pick Stallard Kane? Because we will embed ourselves and we will ensure that we are in an addition to already your fantastic workforce in front of you, rather than just being a process. If you want a process, do not use Stallard Kane, because that is not what we are. We come in and we really want to make a difference and embed.
But it's a relationship, isn't it?
Absolutely. You've got nothing without that, because if you don't understand the risks in front of that business, it's not even just about the risks, it's culture as well. If you've got people within your team that just tick a box and don't actually understand why they're doing that and the risks that are associated with that, you're never going to be able to have a positive safety culture. And same from a HR perspective as well. It is about the mentality around it, not just I've got to do that because I was told to. And Stallard Kane really urged that it's not just about completing the task in hand. It's about having the whys. Why do we do that? And then it can change the culture.
Okay.
I think the relationship piece is really important, as you mentioned. I think the main thing for me is the effort we go to make sure the right advisor is with the right client. And it'd been the same for Claudia and her team. We would get feedback from the business development team as to what type of business is it, what type of person we'll be dealing with. Is it a director? Is it a nominated person who needs a bit of hand-holding? What sort of advisor will fit that company best? And we'll go out our way to make sure that obviously they've got the industry knowledge, first and foremost, but it's the right type of personality, the way that communicate, the way that they'll actually go about working with that person, with the contact at the organisation to educate and to build the relationships. It's not just who is free tomorrow and who's 20 minutes away. We would rather wait a week, 2 weeks and get the right person with you and explain that to the client. And yeah, the relationship part's massive. It really is. And as a USP, obviously, we've got the fact that we've built a relationship with yourselves.
Yes.
So I've spoken to yourself a number of times and Carl. And we have the inside scoop as to what the HAE advise as well. So we're not just looking at legal compliance from a safety perspective. We're also going to be looking at it from a HAE perspective as well. So yeah, it's there's numerous USPs, I suppose.
Yeah. So this is a tricky one. Pricing. I suppose, buy cheap, buy twice. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Those nice phrases. But I would imagine for our members, rather than just going directly to Stallard Kane, come through the HAE, log on, contact HAE Risk Services. There's got to be a benefit.
There is, yes. We do have an agreed rate for HAE members, a part of their membership benefit and something that we was quite passionate about doing, because the reality is that we want that partnership to be seen. We don't want them to just drop onto our website and go from there. We actually want them to know that this is one partnership between us, and that actually that is the benefit. That is a part of their membership, and we push that through passionately from that side.
So when you're signing a new member up, is that just on a year's basis, or is it like you take it over a 2-year basis, something like that?
That's a really interesting question, because there are people out in the market where you can be signed up for a 5-year term, etc. We're quite passionate and we're quite flexible. Some businesses, they may have just started, that they're in a period of uncertainty, and actually an annual contract and a cost out there for them, that might be something that they need based on their need. We do a really deep fact find for what matters for that business and where they're at in their business journey. And it may just be that we need to do 1 year and go from there. Ideally, we tend to work on 3-year contracts because we find it best to get in, understand that business. We talk about embedding ourselves. That is our reality. So it's important that we spend that initial period getting to know their business, then embedding ourselves within that business, and then it becoming business as usual, and we're a part of that functionality of that business.
Sure.
But on top of that as well, we also do bespoke elements. So we have clients that we work with, most certainly within the HAE, that they just need a gap analysis. They may have internal services, they have internal health and safety provisions, and they just need someone to come in and check over and make sure that everything is running the way it should be, and that actually they've just got an extra pair of eyes on it for their own protection. We do all of that. So we can come in and just work on ad hoc work, and we can make sure that we are aligned with their needs. So
the ad hoc work, are we say that's kind of a sort of a pay-as-you-go basis?
Absolutely a pay-as-you-go basis, because I think, and as we've mentioned in here, we aren't just an out-of-the-box product. We are really, what do you need as a business? Which means we do have to have more pay-as-you-go options to suit that client's needs.
Yeah, but there is a benefit doing it through the HAE, through the risk services section.
Absolutely. Through the partnership, through the risk services.
Good.
On the HAE website, it will be directed through to us, and then we'll get a membership benefit on that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
You can take a breath now, because I'm going to pick on Claudia next.
Okay.
Hi, Claudia. So, HR. Where do we even start with HR? It's so complex. I mean, my opening question, you must have a million stories of how you've helped our members. Just give us a bit of a backdrop, really, of things that you've done recently, let's say, You don't need names and places we don't need, but just to give the kind of a feel for our members as to what you actually do when that call comes in.
Well, I think most of your members and the clients that we work alongside tend to be SMEs. So they're smaller organisations who don't necessarily have that in-house expert that understands the ever-growing and developing employment law legislation. Just in the last 5 years alone, the challenges that businesses have faced from a HR perspective. You had Brexit, swiftly followed up by COVID.
That's fun, wasn't it?
That's fun. In the last 12 months alone, we've seen a huge overhaul of employment law legislation, changes to flexible working policies, the introduction of carers leave, neonatal leave, new legislation around sexual harassment at work, just to name a few. And with the new Labour government that's recently come in, we're anticipating their new employment rights bill, which has been labelled as the biggest overhaul of employment law legislation that this generation's seen. So it's a constant...
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ever changing. So if you don't have somebody in-house who, is dedicated to keeping on top of all of these changes, how can you ensure ongoing compliance and protect your own business? So I'd say the first way we support your members is ensuring compliance with employment law.
Okay.
We come in and we get the basics in place first. So it's all about getting your key HR documentation in place, contracts of employment, bespoke employee handbook, and all of the core HR policies that we'd expect to see applied with any organisation. So that's your basics. We get your basics in place. And then with a view of keeping you up to date with ongoing compliance, every member who signs up would be offered an annual HR audit. So once a year, you actually have an advisor visit your site, sit down with you, not only review what's changed within your business, how is your team looking at the moment, is there any extra support you need from that perspective, but updating you as to what legislative changes there have been and how we need to keep you up to date.
Yeah, I think that's important coming out to site, because there are companies out there, it'll all be over the telephone, on an email. Download it all, print it off, stick it in the bottom drawer, and hope you never have to look at it. So and they maybe even step foot across your threshold.
To come meet you. Who you are, where you are, how you work, which might sound really basic, but when you take a call from a client, I've got this employee and they were upstairs last week and it's happened. When you can visualise the working environment and you've met some of those employees, it adds an extra layer to the advice that you're offering. It's not just process-driven advice. We know you, we understand you and your people and the working environment.
And how you operate.
Yeah, exactly that.
And just to add on that, because I think we're all in a world of advancing technologies. We're moving to AI, we're moving to bot work, we're getting feedback, etc. And a lot of businesses out there in our industry have taken boots off the ground and they're going for more of a sit behind a computer, ask a few questions and assess the scenario. We have no directive to do that. We think it is incredibly important to be out there in those offices, to look at those situations so that we can support them in a better way. And for me, that is another unique element, is that we are invested in being there, being a part of what that needs to be.
You've mentioned AI, and that's just a question sort of popped into my head, because I bet there are people out there that go, right, I haven't got an employment contract. Do you know what? ChatGPT, please provide an employment contract for my business. I've got this, and this. Return, and then 30 seconds later, there's your employment contract, which may or may not stand up if it ever got to court. I don't know.
So I actually come from the legal industry before here, working quite closely with AI and all the information with there. And one of the things that people need to be aware of with the use of AI is things like, from an insurance policy perspective, is that if they're generating contracts with AI, it can, it doesn't get it right. It's not confirmed to be right. And you complete that information, you hand that to a member of staff, you are opening yourself up to undue liabilities, which then has you in a position where if anything went wrong and that documentation is to be used, it wouldn't go anywhere in court. You wouldn't be protected on those types of documents. Unless it's a certified AI tool that's within an organisation that's had it built off the back of HR information. If you're just going out to the local ChatGPT and you've paid for an update on there, that it's just not safe and it's not the way. We do not encourage businesses to use it out there.
We actually discussed this as a team just a few weeks ago.
Did you? Right.
Yeah, AI came up in conversation, and whether it's a tool that we could use to enhance the service that we offer. And that conversation led us to acknowledge that actually, whilst it may have its uses, what AI will never be able to do is actually interpret the context, right, around a specific situation, especially when you're dealing with people.
Everyone's different.
Emotions. Yeah, the context, the circumstances. You can't always build that into an AI model. And that's what you get by having a designated advisor that knows you and knows your company. That's all taken into account when we're offering that advice and tailoring that advice to give you the options as to how you can best approach an employee.
Okay. So once a year you go out to site, you do the HR audit.
Yes.
But for the rest of the year, when you're not out to site, unless a member phones you, but then during the year, you say, the law's changing all the time, it's evolving, Labour government, all that kind of stuff. So do you send out sort of e-shots to members to say, FYI, this is coming into force in the next 30 days, you need to make your employees aware?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have the annual audit, which is a touch point, but in between that audit, we've got our monthly newsletters. So at least once a month, you've got a broadcast article that will go out with a topical content. And if there are any other legislative updates in between, those updates are circulated. So when required. Not only will it just go out to our general mailing list, but we'll actually email members directly to make sure that you're aware of that. And you've got your online members area as well, where policies, procedures, anything extra.
Right. So talk to me about that then. So does that go through the HAE site or is that direct to you guys?
Great question, Neil. So that goes through the HAE website. You can get to that. You can get to that through the HAE website.
Yeah. So you have a log on.
You'll have a log on details. So that will all be set up for you as a part of that membership benefit.
Yep.
So it's a very simple process. And then you'll have full access to all templates, guidance, support through that portal. Yep. You'll also get news alerts and updates with legislative changes and information within there as well.
So it's quite a robust system then. The touch point's a great one when you go out to site, but when it's, the rest of the year, you've got all that information that's pretty much at your fingertips.
Well, that's all the proactive items to try and ensure your ongoing compliance, but then you have also got that ongoing advice and support. So as and when problems arise, you've got someone at the end of the phone, telephone, email, and you've got unlimited access to your designated advisor. So I'll always say to my clients, if you need to ring me every single day, you absolutely can. Be very concerned if you were ringing every single day. Something's really wrong. But you've got that person at the end of the phone.
So within your subscription fee, that's just 24/7, 365, so to speak. You're on speed. You're on speed dial one for our members.
Absolutely, that is absolutely the case. And for us, and I'm sure Matt would cover this, but we have had calls and members of the team have been at the side of serious incidents and supporting them at all hours of the night, no matter what. As a team, we get there and make sure our members are supported. Yeah,
because my concern, there are members who can be watching this, they're thinking, I'm a bit shaky with my HR stuff. I'm a bit shaky with my health and safety stuff. I don't want to spend the money because I've been all right so far. But my argument is, it's that next phone call. It's whatever happens next. And that's when you start scrabbling for the documents and that support, and you realise you've just got massive holes everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the key things that I would just like to put out there is that we don't expect everybody to have everything perfect. Working with us, we will work with you to get to that status. Those members that aren't currently taking services from us, we have lots of ways where we can introduce you to the awareness piece of, why should I do this? What does this mean to me? I mean, a member of our team will do, first a 20-minute call with them to assess their current processes and procedures that they have in place, and actually just see if there's those gaps. Now, it may be that they're absolutely brilliant and they've got support there and it's all working for them. Then that's fine. They may need an ad hoc service. For those members that we identify gaps with, that's where we will go on site, free of charge. We'll go see them at their business and really talk them through on a personable level as to what we can do for them. Now, it's okay saying, I've never had a problem, so why would I need it? What we don't want to do is have to be reactive. When the problem occurs, we don't want to have to come in and support them from a HSE perspective. We want to come in and support them proactively and ensure that actually those liabilities and exposures are not there. And if they are there, we'll be able to protect and defend them in those situations. Yeah. And I think we can all sit in that mindset of, well, it'll never be me. But the reality is that it could be. And there's a member benefit they have an option there. So it's initially just a conversation, and then we work together to understand how we can help you.
Okay.
So yeah.
So Claudia, what's the most common HR question? It must be one.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and not necessarily a specific question, but a general subject that impacts a lot of what we're doing from a HR perspective is mental health at work. Okay. I'd say the majority of the cases that we're advising upon, there's some sort of a mental health theme or impact that we have to consider when supporting. I think there's a few reasons for that. Over the last decade, the conversation around mental health, we're a lot more open about discussing mental health as a society and a general culture. So yeah, we're finding that affects a lot of what we do. And alongside that cultural shift, you've also got an increased duty of care on employers, not just to protect their staff, their physical safety, but also their psychological safety as well. And depending on the circumstances, there will be certain instances where there's actually a legal obligation to put support and adjustments in place for people who are struggling from a mental health point of view.
So it's quite complex.
So, yeah, and some people, they're not sure how to approach that conversation. What should I say? What shouldn't I say?
Yeah.
You have a lot of managers who they've climbed the ranks and they've become very good at what they do. They know the business inside out. They know the day job. But then that people side of things and how to approach that conversation, what support to put in place, they're maybe not as confident with. So whilst we're there helping with HR process and procedure, we're also mindful of that support piece as well. Sometimes you'll have those two things running alongside.
Yeah, sure.
So that's a common theme that comes up at the moment.
Right.
Definitely.
Okay.
So not maybe a specific question.
No, but
a subject that
it's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum HR standard that our members should have? So if they're not in a contract either with HAE Risk Services or another, is there a minimum they should have?
The basic things
they should have.
As an absolute minimum, I would expect to see contract of employment in place.
Which we now have free on the website as a basic one, don't we?
Yeah,
Thank
very
you for that.
basic template.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You've also got a legal requirement to make sure that all of your employees have the legal right to work in the UK.
Yeah.
And then I would be looking at your documentation and making sure that you've got key policies and procedures in place.
Yeah.
That would be your absolute bare minimum. Your core legal requirements are probably those areas.
Yeah.
But there's so much more I could.
I know, and I just it concerns me that I just feel that there will be members out there, the small SMEs that we've talked about, who will just haven't
even had contracts in place. Or often I will go out to these members and you sit down and you look at their contracts of employment and they maybe have a contract in place, but it's 20 years old and it's a big sheet of paper.
But they still think it's right to have that.
Yeah. And it's changed so much over the years. Even a contract that's maybe 5 years, it could be out of date now and need some tweaks and changes.
But then we go full circle back to HAE Risk Services. It's trying to mitigate that risk for the owners or our members and their staff, and then obviously that will come on to the health and safety bit, Matt. You're not escaping just yet. and for the end users of the equipment.
Absolutely.
So it is quite complex. Is there any enhanced benefits that our members would receive from HAE Risk Services outside of just going to another provider?
I think that goes back to what Katie was saying, that there is an enhanced member.
Yeah, there's an enhanced member benefit from a costing perspective.
Yeah.
There's also some enhanced member benefits, as you just mentioned, is that, we recognise it was actually from a HAE member that came to us who's just started a new hire business and wanted some help with contracts of employment. And that's how the contract of employment came up.
Which is a free download.
Which is a free download. And where we continue to do these things for members and we recognise that there is a pattern of things that members are asking for, we will do our best to make sure that is available for the members as a complementary element to the HAE benefit.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Take a breath. Right, Matt.
Here we go.
My final victim. So, health and safety.
Yes.
How long have we got?
How long do you want that?
It's as complex as HR, isn't it? Let's be honest.
It can be.
Yeah. It's as complex as HR.
It certainly can be. It's often misunderstood, I think. There's a lot of wrong impressions about what health and safety is there for and what it is businesses like Stallard Kane actually do.
Yeah.
So I think there's a responsibility on business owners and employees to at least allow themselves to be open to sort of be educated as to what it is we're trying to achieve when we come and visit sites. So you could ask somebody on the street as to what does health and safety mean, and they'd probably roll their eyes and think.
Well, it seems they think
red tape.
they just think health and safety police, don't they? Yeah,
Of course,
nanny culture.
Someone walking around with a clipboard.
Yeah.
If someone's about to get in trouble.
You have one of those, though, right?
If the needs arise, yeah, we can. But yeah, it's anything but that in our world anyway. It's very much about building those relationships I've already alluded to and educating the team that we're working with at a company to as to why we need to improve certain standards. Is not always about stopping processes, and that's obviously another impression that people get, that it's a hindrance. It's far from that. It's about making sure that the work can be done, but it can be done safely, it can be done efficiently, and it can be done at no loss to the organisation later on in down the line.
So Stallard Kane, the HAE Risk Services and the health and safety side. So for our members, in my mind, if they're using the HAE Risk Services for health and safety, that's surely going to support them in their journey to be Safe Hire accredited with the association. Obviously, Safe Hire, the main body which underpins our association for our members.
Yeah, of course. It's there to complement one another. So members have access to a Safe Hire and obviously have health and safety support through that and health and safety audits through that to understand where their gaps are, but we can help fill those gaps. We can carry out additional work that's required to get through a Safe Hire audit, and our audit's been designed to complement that. It quotes certain HAE recommendations and guidance. It's a higher specific audit. It's not an off-the-shelf.
Interesting. Okay, that's good.
Who's got one of them, but which our advisors will be skilled enough to adapt to the company that they're going to visit. But we have what we class as our 12 key industries within Stallard Kane. The health and safety department, hire is one of them. So we've worked at creating a higher specific audit that allows the advisors to go in, ask relevant questions that make sense to the business owners, that make sense to the environment that they're being, that they're visiting. It's not just what risk assessments have you got. It's they're going to be asking higher specific questions. So yeah, it's there to complement the Safe Hire accreditation and to guide members through it where they need that additional support.
Yeah, I think certainly for new members coming on board, they know that they've got to go through Safe Hire, and if they haven't got any health and safety in place or very minimum amount of health and safety, that's just going to make that process really easy, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah. So as a standard from any health and safety client of ours, any member that wants to engage in the services more formally, we would provide health and safety policies, we provide health and safety booklets, access to thousands of templates that can help answer some of the certain questions on the Safe Hire accreditation. So risk assessment templates and safe systems of work and all sorts of different checklists. And it's there to be adapted and to be filled in by the clients as and when they need it.
Okay.
When there's a certain circumstance where clients might need more support, where they might not have the time, they might not have the competency in-house to actually complete those templates, that's where Katie and her team would highlight the need for additional days, for additional support, and we can actually come in, we can act as a competent person if needs be, to actually come in and really implement the health and safety management systems and guide clients through the process.
Yeah, because I do know that some of our members, they do struggle, the smaller members do struggle. You know, the big nationals, they've got a whole team of people dealing with this kind of stuff, so it's easier for them. But the small SMEs, you know, 1 or 2 depots employing, you know, a dozen people, that's it's owner managed, and that person is trying to do everything. Yeah.
They might not know where to go and get the information, and when they do get the information, they might not know how to interpret.
Wouldn't know what to do with that, and it's just back to that bottom drawer. They just shove it in there and shut the drawer and hope it's going to go away.
It's a real skill of our advisors that they understand where to look for all of the right answers, obviously, but then it's interpreting that information and making it relevant to the industry that you're dealing with and making it fit the environment. So, yeah, you've got exactly what Claudia said with her team's service, that you have a dedicated advisor that understands your organisation, understands the nuances, and looks at it from a very objective view, rather than it just being a phone call saying, well, yeah, here's a risk assessment template for manual handling. We might need to go in and actually understand what the risks are for manual handling in that, as an example. Yeah. So, yeah, it's there to support all sizes of businesses, and just through the nature of what it is, we do deal with more SMEs and the companies that have 10, 12 staff, but we've also got some that have a full health and safety management team, and they just need somebody external who's fully up to date with the legislation, just as a sounding board.
Yeah.
Come in and do a fresh pair of eyes audit on a depot or whatever site it might be, and advise our team. It's not there to work against them. It's there to collaborate with them and really be that sort of sounding board.
Yeah. And I think this is really important. You know, you're not the HR police and you're not the health and safety police.
Certainly not.
You're here to help our members.
Yeah.
First and foremost, it's not a case of where you failed and you're just left to your own devices. It's supportive, and it's a journey that they're going to be on to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things to add on there is that there is no, you know, those that haven't yet picked up the phone or spoken to us and may not have these things in place, it's okay. You know, you've got to start somewhere. And if actually you are in that SME business, which, you know, is our sweet spot for how we deal with our clients, is that we know you have got a multitude of things to do. So some things just become less of a priority in those moments. And that's okay. We're there to bring those back up to where they need to be and just make that call. That's
I call it the round to it. They're just getting round to it. You know,
I call it gonna do, never gonna do list. And a lot of things make it on that list, but not this bit. Not health and safety and HR. Let's move them.
Yeah. So just very quickly, Claudia mentioned about HR and logging on, and you've got all the documents. You briefly touched on the document piece. Is that the same portal?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it can be accessed in the same way, and exactly what Claudia said and Katie described. It's a full library of templates. So what I would like to think that the advisors, once they've audited a client, if there was any templates that have been discussed during that particular visit, then they will be attached along with the documents. However, if 6 months down the line, if a member wanted to log on to that to see if there's a certain risk assessment template, they might bought a new machine or they might be carrying out a new activity, chances are we've got a template that if it isn't spot on, it'll be pretty close. So we've got a library available for all our clients and HA members.
Okay. So members coming to you guys now for HA Risk Services, they're not using you for HR, they're not using you for health and safety. They sign up and say, right, okay, I want a 3-year deal for both HR and health and safety. At what point after that do they get a visit? How soon afterwards?
I think
roughly.
I would like to think there would be a maximum of a 3 to 4 week turnaround time.
Which is that? Okay.
Yeah, we'd be looking to make sure that the right person was available, as I mentioned earlier, which cards on the table delay things, because I wouldn't want to compromise the level of service that a client's going to get if somebody might be on a holiday and then they've got 2 weeks blocked out in the diary once they're back, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would work towards a 3 to 4 week turnaround.
And I think it's really important to add on that as well is my team work very close with the client on the initial discovery of what their need is, and we have many clients even up until even yesterday where they will come to us and they have an immediate need. They need us to be in and solve a problem that has come their way, and that's why they've signed up for the services. And we do have allowances for that. We do make leeway for those clients that have a little bit more of a urgent requirement, and then we go from there. I think it's fair to say that although there's a 3 or 4 week turnaround in general services, they will still have an onboarding process in between there. It's not silent. They haven't signed and then that's it. We will then continue to schedule that with the client at their convenience as well.
So could a member say to you, right, okay, look, I've had a HR provider that I had for the last 10 years. I'm happy with them. Health and safety, I'm a little bit not so good on that. Can I just use you for health and safety?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be single service.
Okay.
I suppose the benefit of it not being single service is Matt and Claudia's team can communicate, and when there's often a crossover of
I would imagine so, yeah.
So the good example that Claudia gave earlier with the mental health side of things, and maybe even returning to work if there's been an accident. So all these things have a lot of
links to, I get that.
And there's numerous examples where clients have emailed both the health and safety and HR advisor with in the same email. They rang up and they want to speak to both of them wherever possible, arrange a Teams call to discuss a specific issue. So there's benefits to having both services, but by no means is that you don't have to.
They complement one another quite nicely, don't they? You had an incident just last Friday, a call from a client, there's been a serious accident at work, and his initial questions to me were around, this employee's had an accident, they're now going to be signed off sick, what my obligations to pay and all the rest of it. But that actually led me into a conversation of, have you actually touched base with your health and safety advisor?
Is it RID or reportable? It goes on and on and on then, doesn't it?
And he sort of said, oh, well, I'd only rung you for the HR bit. Yeah, you say that. Can I speak to somebody in health and safety? I said, leave it with me. Let me get somebody on the phone. Within an hour, they've got health and safety person on the phone. So they've got that.
360-degree surgery, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any interesting case studies recently, Matt? Any scary ones?
What? Thankfully not from our clients.
Trips and falls is the classic one, isn't it?
Of course there is. Yeah, I think, as Katie mentioned, that there's times where people come to us, clients come to us, and they come to us because they've had an incident. And that might be a notice of contravention, it could be an improvement notice or prohibition, or that could be off the back of prosecution. So, yeah, there's numerous times where we've got work, I suppose, got a client onboarded because of that, and it's been reactive, and we're very, very... we encourage proactive risk management, to say the least. But yeah, case studies in terms of the higher side of things, we've got numerous clients as we discussed. It's about going in, making sure that their health and safety management system is fit for purpose, and where it isn't, as you alluded to, there's the 360-degree service. So if we pick up that a client hasn't got a fire risk assessment, we can deal with that. Or if a client hasn't got a certain level of training, first aid training, for example, we can also facilitate that. So there's different contracts, there's different levels to the service that we can deliver.
Okay, good. Would you offer our members a sort of free HR and health and safety audit? Just going to throw that one out there.
I'm going to correct you on the word audit. We will offer them a free initial assessment. I mentioned earlier a health check. There we are. We'll go with health check. I don't want Matt to be leaving this room and say, did you just give all the members an audit? So yeah, we will do an initial health check. Now what that will be is our trained consultant supporting team within the offices who will review that client's current processes, procedures, ask a series of questions.
Have you got this and this?
Yes, very much like that, but not in the way of ticking a box, explaining to the client what that means. So if I say, have you got contracts of employment? And they say yes, my next question is, when's the last time you updated that?
10 years ago.
Do you have risk assessments? Yes. When was the last time you reviewed those? And it's about just going on to that second and third layer of information, so we can truly understand if that member has a need. And then from there, we will go on site and support them. But yes, all of that is a free and inclusive health check available to all members.
Brilliant. Okay. So one final question. We've nearly got to the end. So if a member had a basic setup of HR and health and safety, what would your best bit of advice be?
Ooh.
Ideal. Well, from a health and safety perspective, I think you've just got to start with the fundamentals. You've got to make sure that you understand your risks, that the risk assessments are carried out. That for me is the base of an effective health and safety management system. So understand the risks, make sure that your staff are competent to do what you're asking them to do, and to document everything. If it's in the world of health and safety, unfortunately, we're in that type of culture at times where if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So I would advise risk assessments, training, and documentation would be my key takeaway. Yeah.
I think that's reflected from a HR perspective as well, just to bounce off what Matt said, that it's having those key policies and procedures in place, documenting everything. That's really important what you said. Even from a HR point of view, you'll have clients come through to say, well, I've had this conversation with a member of staff before and this happened, and given them a warning previously. You go, well, was it written down? Did you?
Well, no. Trying to chat with them.
Yeah. And you go, well, it doesn't count for anything then. And then, some people get to the point of, I need this person out of my business now. This has been a nightmare. I've got a history of all these things. But if there was no process and no audit trail, hasn't happened yet. So you start from scratch. So documenting what you're doing, following process and procedure. And I think from a HR point of view, moving away from compliance and process, a lot of it with your staff comes down to communication. Good communication with your team. It can prevent a lot of HR issues.
And I think from my perspective on this, outside of that, is that having a basic setup is okay, but having care and curiosity about how to make things better and understand how you have the best ways in for your staff. I've spoke quite strongly today about building that culture of safety and awareness. That open line of communication is key. And so for me, my best bit of advice is don't just be basic, be more.
Brilliant.
There we are.
Great ending, Katie. Katie, Claudia, Matt, thank you.
Pleasure.
It's been good today. Yeah, really enjoyed it.